Hi everyone, Ainsley here from Small Fry Creations, where we tackle everything DIY, and this week we're modernising this piece of furniture by getting creative with pallets. Let's roll the intro and get to work. It is challenge time in the woodworking community, and we have to use pallet wood in our build, and this challenge is being hosted by the legend Mark Dana over at Dana Made. If you don't know who he is, I'll be linking him in the description below. If you're looking at getting into woodworking or starting this as a hobby, this might just be the perfect startup project, because I'm going to take this buffet that I found for free off Facebook Marketplace, and I'm going to use these free pallets that I found in my local industrial area to modernize this buffet. The first thing we need to do is pull off all of the hardware.
There's something in the moments that we share, and I cannot deny it. I'm holding on to something rare, and I will never let go. I will never let go.
With the hardware removed, we can really start to modernize this buffet, and we're going to make two major changes to it to bring it into the modern day. The first one has to do with the top, and I'm going to grab the track saw and I'm going to cut off this edge detail. It's just so old-fashioned, and I think by squaring it off, it's going to start to look how I'm picturing it in my mind. Once we've done that, we can move on to the second change.
We are a masterpiece in the making. We are a masterpiece in the making.
We're on to the second change that we're going to make to the sideboard or the buffet to bring it into the modern era, and it has to do with the doors. Just like the top, I don't like this curved detail on the doors. I think it really dates the piece, and I want to try and square it off. So to do that, I'm going to use the router and some pieces of MDF. I'm going to double side tape the MDF down to where I want the router to run, and then I've got a flush trim bit in my router, and that bearing is going to run along the MDF, squaring off the inside of the door. Then we're on to the fun stuff. I can start to pull apart the pallets, and I've got a really cool idea with the pallets, I think, that is going to modernize this piece and really start to make it look sharp. So let's go ahead, make some sawdust, get this piece as ugly as it's going to get, then we can turn it around and start to make it look pretty. It's pallet time. I've put the buffet to the side, and I now need to start to pull these pallets apart. Now, if you're new to woodworking or you're looking at getting into it and you want to start working with pallets, head over to Mark Dana's channel, because he has an entire series of how you can get up and running, pulling apart pallets and working with them with some really basic tools. Now, I'm going to go the cheats method. I don't need the full length of the pallet with the timber, so I'm not going to go to the effort of removing the nails. I'm simply going to grab the track saw and saw them off next to the nail holes. That'll be fine for what I plan on doing today with the buffet. So let's go ahead, get set up, start to pull these things apart, and then we can start turning these pretty and add them to the buffet. Come on. Whew. This is hard work. One down, two to go. Let's get the track saw again. I'm giving up on the track saw because you can't use it for every cut. I had to use the hand saw for some of them. It's like 41, 42 degrees in Sydney today. I am hot. That is hard work. I don't know how Mark does it. I am all about the power tools. I've got out the Ryobi circular saw. I hate this thing. It's so loud. I can't stand it, but it will do what I need it to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and make the cuts, hopefully make it a lot better. Then I can cool down and then we can move on. Man, that's hard work. I need a drink. Whew. Whew. Now that I've cooled down a little bit, let's continue with the project. The 3 pallets yielded a ton of timber, probably more than I'm going to need, but I want to run all of the pieces through the next couple of steps because I want to be able to pick and choose which pieces I'm going to use when I start to modernize the buffet. I've got the table saw here with a jig that is going to allow me to create one straight edge on all of the boards. I'm going to clamp each piece down to the jig with the edge just slightly overhanging, run it through the table saw, creating me one straight edge, and then once I've done that, I'll move the table saw fence in, jig will go out, and then I can run them all through again, creating me 2 straight edges. Now, if you're gonna work with pallet wood, do yourself a favor and pick yourself up a metal detector. This guy is gonna be vital to make sure that I've got no metal sitting in the pallets. I shouldn't because I didn't remove the nails, but I just wanna be 100% certain. I don't wanna be setting off the brake on the table saw. So let's go ahead, start working our way through this timber, and then we can move on to the thicknesser, put it through and start to have a look at what the timber's gonna come up like.
This feeling I can't live without. So shame on me, I'm a fool for the melody. This is our party, and this is where the beat goes down. Feel the music on the stereo. As we let the rhythm take control, we're gonna dance like we don't care. Keep on popping bottles like we're millionaires. Yeah, we're just getting started, living for the weekend. Shame on me, I'm a fool for the melody. I don't wanna stop right now. All I need is a drum with the heavy beat. Hit me with that future sound. It's time to let go. We're not going home. This feeling I can't live without. So shame on me, I'm a fool for the melody. This is our party, and this is where the beat goes down.
Whew. That is a ton of work. I've just spent so much time at the table saw and the thicknesser getting these boards A square, B to the right thickness, and C looking good. I know it's pine, I know it's softwood, but I think if you showed the average person, they would not know this has come from a pallet. They've come up beautifully, and now I'm gonna use them to start to modernize the buffet. The first thing I'm gonna do is work on the top. I've sanded it with 80 grit so that I've gotten rid of most of the finish, and I'm gonna get really good glue adhesion. And then I'm gonna take the boards that are behind me and I'm going to glue them in a arrow, chevron pattern, whatever you want to call it, down the length of the top. So I need to set the miter saw to 45 degrees, take all of my measurements, cut all of my boards, and then I can glue them to the top. I'm hoping I don't need to use the nail gun to fasten anything. I'm hoping with the wood glue, and then I'm going to use super glue as my clamp. That is going to be enough to hold the boards in place. So let's go ahead, get the miter saw set up, and start to bring this thing back to life and into the modern era. other side of the workshop with the pallet top drying, so while it's doing its thing, I'm gonna work on the doors, and in particular on the inset. Now on the inset, I wanna create a sort of ribbing out of the pallet wood. So I'm gonna set the table saw to 30 mil, cut a bunch of strips from the pallet wood, and then I'm gonna apply a round over to both sides of it so that it's got a nice curve to it. And then once I glue them inside the doors, I think it's gonna really modernize it. And once you paint it, you're never even going to know that it was pallet wood. So let's go ahead, get the table saw set up, cut a bunch of strips, and then start applying roundovers. The doors are complete and I'm so happy with them. I think they look fantastic and they're gonna look even better once I get paint on them. And the best part is I've now learned a new design feature that I can use in future projects. Now, one thing to note, if you are gonna use the router like I did, proceed at your own risk. Ideally, you wanna be using it in a router table. And if you're new to routering, I will link a video above showing you 5 great ways you can use the router in the workshop to elevate your woodworking. I'm gonna put the doors aside for the time being and let them dry and switch my attention back to the buffet because it is now time to trim this to size.
Sometimes I play it safe and you can see it. It's easy for me to show, but sometimes I'm really brave, and that just means that I'll try again tomorrow.
All right, confession time. I've trimmed the top, but I am gonna have to get some pine from Bunnings to dress the top because I wanna hide these 2 layers. I'm gonna do that tomorrow because it's too late for me to go to Bunnings now. What I can do in the meantime is clean the piece before I sand it and prep for painting. I'm gonna use Co. It's all natural. It also has a degreaser in it and it works really well on projects like this. I've used it in the past and had great success. So what I need to do is clean everything down and then I can come through with 120 grit sandpaper and rough up the surface. That will be enough for the primer to adhere to, and then we can start to bring in some color.
Gotta remember I was made for this. Let them take me as far as they want to go. And it's time for me to say, they won't break me, I'm braver than I know. It's my doubt created mountains where the...
All right, it's been a busy morning. I have undercoated all of the pieces this morning, and then while that was drying, I ducked out to Bunnings to pick up the pine that I'm going to wrap the top in, and also the door handles, the paint color, and also the stain for the top. I don't love the pine, so I'm going to give it a walnut stain. I also think that's going to match the paint color that I've chosen better. But the first thing we need to do while the undercoat is drying, head over to the table saw and set up for the 45-degree cut so that we can get this wrapped. And then while that glue is drying and doing its thing, then we can head back to the paint. I'm really excited to show you the paint color and apply the first coat.
Finish up all makeup in the mirror. Pre-gaming shots, no chaser. Shania radio cranked up 'cause you know it's not another typical Tuesday. Gonna go out, live it up all with high heels, mini skirt. Looks so good in boots. It's a girls' night out, oh, oh. When we go out, you know, oh, 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 oh. My girls and me, we make a scene, you know, we make it look so easy, breaking hearts around the city. When it's a girls' night out, oh, oh. A girls' night out, oh, oh. Boys watch us tearing up the dance floor. Wanna dance, but they can never get more. We don't need 'em and ruin our plans. It's a girls' night out, oh, oh.
The clamps are gone, the cracks have been filled, and the top has been sanded to 240 grit. It's ready for stain. We're gonna hold off on that for the time being and paint the cabinet. Now, the inside of the cabinet is going to be Dulux Natural White. You're not gonna see me paint it because A, it's boring, no one wants to see white paint being applied, and B, it's on the inside, so it's actually hard to film. I will show you what it looks like at the end. The outside is gonna be painted a really cool color. Haven't used it before. It's called Dulux Angry Ocean. I like the name. And don't tell me the name of a paint color does not factor in when you are choosing a color, because that has to be a flat out lie. I like the name. Let's jump over to the other side of the workshop and I'm gonna show you what it looks like because I've already painted the drawers and the doors the first coat. This is Dulux Angry Ocean. So it's a bluey, greeny sort of tone. I think it's gonna go really nice with the walnut stain. So I've already painted these guys. They've got one coat on them. While these are drying, I'm gonna go and paint the cabinet and then I can come back and do the second coat of these. So let's get to work.
There's a new air around me. The waves crash onto my feet. Breathing in my surroundings. I fall into a daydream. I look back to the palm trees in the hills by the sea, where I can set myself free to finally be at peace. Everything looks a little different without you next to me, holding my hand, but I'm okay with it. I'm just fine, taking it all one step at a time, moving slower than ever before. Somehow it feels like I'm doing so much more, lost in moments in my own mind. I feel less lonely when it's me, myself, and
So I've applied 2 coats of the Angry Ocean, and now that I see the Angry Ocean with the top, I like the pine. I don't think I want to stain it the walnut. I think if I stain it the walnut, it's going to be too dark. All along I said I didn't like the pine, but now that I've painted it the color that I want, I actually really like the pine. So I think I'm just gonna clear coat it. Now I know tons of finishers will yellow the pine, but I'm gonna go with my trusty CFP flooring because A, it's hard wearing and this is softwood, so it will add an extra protection, but it also will not yellow it. It will do a much better job at keeping it in this blonde color that it currently is, which I really like against the Angry Ocean. So I'm gonna go back on what I said, and I'm not gonna stain it walnut. I'm gonna return the stain, and I'm going to paint this CFP flooring. So let's go and clear coat it.
of your face in the waves, but then I changed my direction.
Everything has 2 coats of paint as well as a top clear coat, so we are ready to put this thing back together. And I'm excited to see, have we brought the buffet into the modern era? In terms of hardware, I'm going to use some really simple black knobs from Bunnings. So let's go ahead, get everything fitted off, get everything back together, and see whether or not I've achieved my goal. challenge is completed. Firstly, a huge thank you to Mark over at Dana Made for hosting the pallet challenge. This has been a fun one, and I think I've achieved my goal of bringing this buffet into the modern era. And the best part is I did it for barely any cost, because remember, we used our free pallets that we found in the industrial area, so my only cost has been paint, door handles, and a little bit of trim. Now, I hope you have liked this video. If you have, help me out by hitting the subscribe and like buttons, or better yet, go and watch one of the videos that's about to pop up on your screen, and I'll see you on the next one.